Every Christmas photo in my grandmother's house had been altered, and when I learned why, I wished I'd never started looking. My name is Emma. I'm 34 years old, and until last winter, I believed my family was completely normal, not perfect, just normal. The kind of family that argued at holidays and then pretended nothing happened. The kind of family that kept old traditions alive, especially Christmas. Every Christmas, my grandmother gathered everyone into her living room and took a family photo. Same fireplace, same decorations, same spot for every family member. For over 30 years. Nobody ever questioned it. When Grandma passed away, the photo albums were left to me. At first, I thought they were just memories, a way to remember her. Nothing more. One snowy afternoon, I sat at my dining room table and started looking through them. The first few albums seemed ordinary. Grandpa smiling, my mother standing beside him, my Uncle Robert making funny faces, my Aunt Linda laughing at something outside the frame. Just family memories. Then I noticed something strange. In one photo, my Uncle Robert was missing. That wasn't unusual by itself. Maybe he stepped away. Maybe he was late. But in the next year's photo, Robert was back, and my Aunt Linda was missing. The year after that, my mother was missing, then another cousin, then another relative. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I remembered something. I had attended many of those Christmas gatherings, and some of the people missing from the photos had absolutely been there. I knew they had. I remembered talking to them, eating dinner with them, opening gifts with them. So why weren't they in the pictures? The question wouldn't leave me alone. For days I kept studying those albums. The more I looked, the stranger everything became. Finally, I decided to compare Grandma's albums with photos stored in other family homes. I called relatives, searched old boxes, asked cousins for copies, collected everything I could find. 3 weeks later, I had dozens of Christmas photos spread across my dining room table. And that's when I found the truth. Grandma's versions had been altered. The originals were completely different. The missing people were there, standing exactly where they should have been, smiling, celebrating, existing. Someone had deliberately removed them. I felt a chill run through me, because accidents happen once, not 30 times. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself the same question. Who would spend decades editing family photographs, and why? The answer began in Grandma's attic. Hidden beneath an old sewing cabinet, I found a wooden box. Inside were journals, dozens of them. Some dated back more than 30 years. I opened the first one. Most entries were harmless, recipes, birthdays, weather notes, family events. Then I found an entry from December 1994. The handwriting changed. It became shaky, uneven, like Grandma had been frightened. The entry said, "If anyone ever discovers the truth, this family will never recover." I stared at the page. What truth? I kept reading, but the next several pages had been ripped out. Every page covering Christmas week of 1994 was gone. That date meant something. I knew it did. Then suddenly I remembered. 1994 was the year Grandpa died. According to my family, Grandpa suffered a heart attack in his study during Christmas week. It was tragic, but simple. At least, that's what everyone always said. For the first time in my life, I wondered if that story was true. I continued searching through Grandma's journals. Most references to that Christmas had disappeared. Torn out, destroyed, removed, except for one sentence. Just one. "One of my children killed your grandfather." My hands started shaking. I read the sentence again, and again, and again. One of my children. Not a stranger, not a burglar, not an outsider. One of Grandma's own children. That meant the suspects were suddenly very limited. My mother, my Aunt Linda, my Uncle Robert. One of them had killed Grandpa, and Grandma had known it. Over the next several weeks, I became obsessed. I listened to old recordings from the box, read letters, compared dates, built timelines. The more evidence I found, the more everything pointed toward Uncle Robert. He argued with Grandpa. He borrowed money from Grandpa. Several witnesses remembered heated conversations between them. Even Grandma's notes seemed suspicious of him. I thought I had solved it. Then I found another journal, and everything changed. Inside was proof that Grandma had secretly verified Robert's whereabouts on the day Grandpa died. He wasn't even near the study. He couldn't have done it. The man I thought was guilty was innocent. Now I was back at the beginning. Except the remaining suspects were even harder to imagine. My Aunt Linda, or my mother. Then I discovered the recording. The one Grandma labeled, "Only listen when you're ready." My heart pounded as I pressed play. At first, there was only silence. Then Grandma's voice, older, softer, tired. She said, "Emma, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. I never wanted you to carry this burden." Then she told me everything. 30 years earlier, before Grandpa died, he had discovered a secret, a terrible secret. Years before, my mother had been involved in a fatal accident. A young girl died. The accident was covered up. The truth never reached the police. Only Grandma and Grandpa knew. Nobody else. For years, Grandpa lived with the guilt. But as he grew older, he couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to confess. He wanted to tell the authorities everything. The night before Christmas, he told my mother his decision. The next morning, he was dead. I stopped breathing. I knew what Grandma was about to say, but I didn't want to hear it. Then her voice came through the speaker again, quietly, almost broken. "Your mother poisoned his tea." I felt the room spinning around me. My own mother, the woman who raised me, the woman I trusted. She had killed her father. Grandma continued. She explained that she discovered the truth years later, not immediately, slowly, piece by piece. She spent decades investigating her own daughter, collecting evidence, documenting everything. And the photographs? They were her secret system. Every time she suspected someone, she removed them from a photo. Every altered picture was part of her investigation. A private suspect board hidden in plain sight. 30 years of clues, 30 years of guilt, 30 years of silence. The recording was almost over. Then, Grandma said something that hurt more than the murder itself. "I loved my husband. I loved my daughter. And for 30 years, I could only save one of them." The recording ended. No music, no explanation, just silence. I sat there for a long time, thinking about everything Grandma had carried alone, thinking about Grandpa, thinking about my mother. The mystery was solved, but somehow the truth felt worse, because there was no victory, no justice, no happy ending, just a family that spent 30 years hiding from one terrible decision. Today, those Christmas photos are still in my house. Sometimes I look through them, and every time I do, I stop at the altered pictures, not because they remind me of the killer, but because they remind me how far people will go to protect the people they love, even when they're wrong. And sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Grandma had told the truth from the very beginning.